Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast. Today, we're joined by Greg. Really? This is ridiculous. Tsirulnik. All right. Today, we're joined by Greg Tsirulnik, the CIO of Creative Home Designs. Greg, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Before we get too far in, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Do you know the hackers in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and the hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass security, so companies need a way of knowing when someone's gotten past their security. That's where Cyberlink's intrusion detection comes in. With our 24/7 Security Operations Center, we use a combination of AI and cybersecurity technicians to see when a hacker's successfully bypassed your security. So if a bad guy gets past your security, we'll know right away and be able to kick him out. Find out more at cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. Greg, again, thanks for coming on, and sorry for butchering your name. But for those who aren't familiar, can you tell us about Creative Home Designs and your role there as CIO?
Sure. It's actually a Creative Home Ideas. But nevertheless, design is part of what we do. And in a nutshell, we are a full service home textile company. And a lot of people don't know what that is. So home textile incorporates a lot of products for the home, whether it'll be an area rug, a window curtain, a shower curtain, bedding, kitchen towels, pillows, bath towels, whatever. All of that is designed, developed, manufactured, and distributed by Creative Home Ideas.
That's really cool. And I noticed you guys have a number of different, I guess it'd be brands. Is that what you'd say?
Yes. So we have licensed product as well as our own brands. Some of our licensed product includes brands like Juicy Couture, Nautica, French Connection, Jessica Simpson, Lori Ashley, Lucky Brand. We also produce a number of our own brands, which would be Wyatt and Ash. Uh, let's see. One of the biggest ones that we've just created and launched is Hunter. And it's designed around outdoor living. So if you see a Hunter brand out there and you can't miss it because it's nice, it's bright, it's got vibrant colors, and you probably find it in places like Costco, TJ Maxx, Sam's Club, Walmart. We're all over the place.
Very
Target.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, no, you guys are in like literally every store, it seems. When you look at the list of stores, it's all of them. Yeah, it's pretty much anywhere you go for home furnishings, you're there.
Well, when Bat Bat and Beyond exited the space,
Yeah.
we've kind of filled that gap really nicely.
No, that's great. So let me ask you, as CIO, I mean, it seems like a pretty, intense operation there. I mean, all of these different brands, all different distributions. From the CIO perspective, is it just simple kind of office work, kind of workers that you're securing, or does you've got manufacturing pieces and distribution pieces, and so it gets pretty complicated?
That is a very good question. So we are all over the place. It's not just a simple operation of office space. We are in, at this point, 8 different countries.
Wow.
We have warehousing, distribution, manufacturing facilities. We are in China, obviously outside of the United States. We're in Canada, China, Turkey, India, Pakistan. Um, and we have factories there depending on different product. Obviously, we have distribution in the United States. Our showroom is in New York City. We're smack in the middle of Flatiron District, on Fifth Avenue and 27th Street.
Nice.
Humongous state-of-the-art showroom. As a matter of fact, we're expanding. Business has been really, really good. And it's like I said, we're a full service organization. So we have designers that are constantly working a new product. We have product developers that are constantly working with factories, sourcing, looking at different construction, trying to be innovative. We were one of the first companies in the space that had produced washable rugs, which you now find all over the place. You know, it's the indoor outdoor rug that you can literally fold, throw into your washing machine, wash it, dry, and put it back out in a matter of an hour, right?
Nice.
Or
Yeah,
depending how long your process takes.
sure.
So, production people, obviously warehousing staff, IT, back office support, finance, import teams that deal with import and export, product into and out of the country, customer support staff, you name it.
I mean, that's intense. Normally, you get a CIO of let's say an architecture firm. Okay. They get really good at the, whatever CAD product they're using, the network infrastructure, the security. Okay, fine, cool, got it. But I mean, even just warehousing, that's an entire industry in and of itself. That, you've got specific, software and equipment that's going on there. So now you've got not only the warehousing, the distribution, you've got the design people. I mean, it's a lot to manage. Did you find it difficult moving into the space to kind of become to put all the pieces together and get up to speed with it, or was this something you kind of came to the table already equipped for?
So, I've been in the IT space for 29 years, and I spend majority of that time with fashion apparel, which means I am very much used to the designers, the product developers, the manufacturers, the sourcers, the planners, the forecasters. You know, as a matter of fact, in my youth, when I was growing up, my family has been in the manufacturing business for nearly 50 years.
Oh wow.
So I spent my youth working with my father, who eventually thought I would follow his footsteps, trying to learn the business. So I did, but on the apparel side. But then I got more interested in the technology aspects of it. So to me, I was kind of a shoe-in, right? Not only did I know the industry and how it worked from the operational side, uh, combining that with a tech skill, right? For someone that was looking to hire a technician, it was a good match because typically you either have somebody that's really good in IT or you have someone that's really good in the business.
Yeah.
But it's not often, and I'm not trying to, boast myself here, but it isn't often that you find a combination of both.
Yeah.
And I pride on having that. So going into home textiles was new to me, right? The industry is similar, but it's different,
Right.
right? Because in a typical apparel, you have different seasonalities. You have multiple seasons, spring, summer, fall, holiday, so on and so forth. In home textiles, it's not exactly the same,
Mm.
right? People typically don't care about, summer, spring. If you need a carpet, you buy a carpet.
Yep.
You're not going to change one just because it's springtime, right? There
Yeah.
are certain holiday type of, product
Sure.
around like Halloween or Christmas. Maybe you get those, boo decorative pillows or, pillows that's embroidered in hearts for Valentine's Day. But it is just such a small subset of the business,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. It's not a game changer, right? But what is important is to make sure that the newness of the product is always there, right? That we're staying competitive. Because what typically happens, and it happens in any industry, your competitor sees your product and they're trying to catch up and steal some of your designs,
Yep.
right? And so we have to constantly be on our toes to make sure that our product is just a little bit different, a little bit better, right? And then we have the best people and best solutions. So we have the cutting edge.
Nice. I mean, so let's go back to, you were talking about, you kind of grew up in the apparel industry. And it's funny because I kind of grew up in the tech industry. My dad was was a smart engineer. but a very poor businessman, like not even close, right? And it was funny because I think everything that I learned in business, I learned from what would dad do the opposite kind of thing. I learned, or maybe it's more like the Edison's 10,000 ways to not make the light bulb. Dad
Right.
showed me 10,000 ways to not be successful in business. So I was like, oh, great. Well, then it was easy because I saw all the mistakes. So I'm kind of curious with your background with your dad. What was that like? Was it, and why did you kind of, not follow in the footsteps?
Um, so I grew up seeing my dad being respected and admired by every person that he's worked with. And I've always asked him, uh, what is it that you do that other people don't, that your staff follows you no matter where you are, right? So he started out, I mean, a little bit of a background story. I grew up in what is now considered to be Ukraine.
Hmm.
But back then it was part of Soviet Union,
Yeah.
right? So today it's, Ukraine. And when I was a kid, there was no such thing as private entities, right? So he worked for someone that was essentially a government type of organization because everything belonged to the government. And then when they started to allow, the government started to allow to have private enterprise, they call them co-ops, right?
Right.
Back then,
Yep.
he was one of the first to open one, in the city where we lived. And so many considered him to be the pioneer, right? Because they kind of followed his footsteps and seeing what mistakes he made, so they wouldn't make that. Kind of similar to what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
And many of the people that he had worked with in the previous place went to work for him now directly,
Mm.
right? And then he eventually ended up opening another enterprise and another enterprise. And I've noticed that most of the people would follow, right? Because when he would sell one, he would open something else, and then those people would follow and go there. And so essentially, the person that bought the place kind of lost, you know, personnel, so to speak. All
Yeah.
the talent walks out of the door
Yeah,
at
that's
five
right.
o'clock. Um, and I asked him, I said, what makes you different? Like, why would they follow you? It's not like you're paying them any more money than the other person. And he said, you got to treat people in a certain way,
Yeah.
right? With respect and understanding. And then I also noticed that he would put a sense of a hint of humor in everything. There'll be maybe a subtle joke or something along the lines. He wanted to make sure that people didn't just work hard, but they also enjoyed what they were doing and who they were doing it with. And one line that he taught me was, and I think that there's a phrase similar to this in an English language, is, show up for the job you want, not the job you have.
Right. Yep.
So I think a more American version of that, dress for the job
First
you
with job.
want.
Yeah. Hmm.
Right. And so he taught me to show up for the one that I wanted, not necessarily the one that I had. And so I incorporated that into everything that I was doing because it had such a profound impact on me,
Yeah.
right? Not just to be there, but also incorporate some of the humor, right? And be one of the people, not just, a boss,
Yeah.
so to speak. Um, when I had the opportunity to start learning technology, I already had the sense of the business. So, when he asked me what I wanted to do with the rest of my life when I went to college, I said, I don't want to go and get like an accounting degree or a business management degree or anything like that. I want to follow computer science. Why? Because I can take the best of both worlds, in my opinion,
Yeah.
and that is working with people and solving problems through technology. And so I married the two together. And for the first, I would say 5 or 6 years, um, I bounced around. I was in healthcare, I was in telecom, I was in commercial manufacturing, and we did everything, you know. I worked for a company that produced printing ink for all the newspapers and magazines,
Oh
not
wow.
just in New York, but nationally. Who knew?
Yeah, right.
There's,
That's the
such a,
thing. Yeah,
I mean, we provided ink to like Daily News and New York Times and all that.
yeah,
Um, but it wasn't my thing.
right.
It wasn't my thing. And essentially, eventually, I got introduced to somebody in apparel uh, because they thought that I had a great sense of business. And I went back into the apparel business, but now as a techie.
Yeah.
I came in as a director of information systems, and which was my first official big title. Ooh, I was 25 years old,
Nice.
and I spent 5 years there. And believe it or not, Matt, I didn't get the job because I was a great technician. I got the job because I knew everything about the business.
Nice.
And when the CFO told me, he basically said, "Tell me what you know about us." And I told him everything that I knew. And he was very surprised. And I left that interview. And then within a couple of hours, I received a phone call from Human Resources. And the lady on the other line said, "Well, we wanted to welcome you to the company, and we want to extend an offer." And so I accepted it. And when I started the job, I sat down with the CFO who I reported into, and I said, "If you don't mind me asking, because I always like to learn, why did you choose me? How was I different from anything anyone else?" And he said, "Well, I can hire any technician. There's IT guys all over the place. I haven't came across one that knew more about our business than we did."
Nice.
And believe it or not, the job after that, same thing. Before I went and met with the CEO, I actually went to the store and I looked at the product and I looked at the quality of the product. And I was especially interested in men's because my father is a men's designer. So he created his own product. He created his own designs. He
Right.
created his own patterns. So I was sitting down with the CEO and it's a typical question. What do you know about us? And I said, "I love your, double-breasted suits. I think, the wool, the Italian wool is awesome. And, I especially like whatever that model or design was and it's in that color. And he's like, "How do you?" I said, "I went to the store." I said, "You went to the store?" "Yes, I went to the store." "Why?" So because if I'm going to work here, I need to show up for the job that I want. So I need to know what is the
That's awesome.
product? Who am I representing? Who's the company? What do they sell? What services do they provide? Who do they sell to? Who is their customer? What do they say about you in the industry?
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I like to ask, and I like to ask everybody we have on the show, or I'm starting to anyway, to ask them, what advice they'd give to, somebody new coming into the field, whether it's IT, cybersecurity, or whatever the field they happen to be in, and I'm gonna guess that would be your answer. But you know what? I'm going to ask you anyways, because you might have another nugget. Because I think that was a fantastic, or that is just great advice to anybody coming in. You want a job, go study the business, really know it. And then when they ask you about it, you know, just tell them all about their business. And now, okay, great. You've, clearly put in that you've done your homework, you care about it, you know what you're getting into. Great. So what advice would you give somebody coming into the field?
Find what you're passionate about and then educate yourself as much as you can on it. Because people can spend hours in the office, right? They can outwork you as far as, how much they dedicate themselves to it. But not everyone has the passion for it. Ethics to me is above everything else. You can always learn things, right? Coming in with experience, like companies say, we junior position, 5 to 7 years of experience, but no one wants to hire you when you have two. How are you supposed to gain that experience?
Yep.
But if you come in educated, even if you don't have the experience, you can learn the rest. You just got to be hungry, right? Outworking someone else no longer works
Yeah.
because kids are coming out of college, they know more, they're better educated than someone that has even 15 years of experience. But what they don't have is real world experience. And the only way you can get that is by asking questions, by doing your research, by trying and failing, right? Getting up and trying again and again and again. And when you fail, admit that you've made a mistake. It's okay. Because failure is not making a mistake. Failure is not recovering from it and quitting on yourself.
Right.
So you're just starting out, or you're looking to change careers, or you're looking to go into a different field, learn as much as you can about it. These days, they have so much more advantage than we ever did. You have AI, you have ChatGPT, Claude, Grok. I mean, there's so many different tools. You want to learn something? Use the tools.
Yep.
Cast a wide net. Find as much as you can. Product, company, tools, technology, industry, whatever. Just learn. Be the
I love that.
sponge.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think, going back to your failure thing, I think a lot of people grow up in a, is at least in the US school system, they really learn that you've got to be, you get given information, you regurgitate it back perfectly, you get a good grade. And so they don't learn to make mistakes. They don't get to learn from their mistakes. And so they think getting something wrong is a failure. No, it's not. As you said, that's an opportunity to learn and to grow. Failing is when you make a mistake and you quit. That's when you failed, when you quit. And not pivoting, because I think there's a big difference when you decide you're going down a path and you're like, oh, you know what, I think this is a great path for me, and then you find out that, wait, this isn't a good path for me, the company, whatever, and you pivot to something else. That's not a failure. You've changed. You're right. Failing is when you quit and you stop even trying. That's failing. It's not making a mistake.
There's a great quote. I typically when I think of something that I want to remember, I text myself because
Nice.
there's like, there's only so much room in here.
Yeah.
So I texted myself a quote because I'm writing a book,
Oh,
so
nice.
I want to not to forget. And it says, we're all faced with great opportunities, brilliantly disguised as impossible situations.
Nice.
So if you think about that, something comes along which may be a great opportunity, but it just seems impossible to achieve, whether it's because we fall into the mindset that society kind of conditions us with. You're not good enough, strong enough, educated enough, experienced enough, fast enough, whatever enough,
Yeah.
right? And so it becomes a impossible situation.
I love
But
that.
if instead you turn that around and say, well, it's not an impossible situation, it's an opportunity because it's not an experience, so it's a lesson.
Right. Couldn't agree more. I think that is the right way to look at it. And I want to go back to your perspective on talking about finding, something that they're passionate about, because I think that's often misused, misunderstood, where it's like, oh, find your passion. Okay. Yes. I mean, to some degree, but I think you need to find something that you are interested in, that you like, and the more that you work on that, the better you get at that. That's what we people love. People love what they're good at, right? Nobody started off, I don't know, playing basketball. You weren't great. Even the best basketball players, the Michael Jordans, the first time they picked up a basketball, they weren't great at it. There's a big difference between who Michael Jordan became and where he started, right? Along with everybody else who's ever been good at anything, right?
Right,
But you kind of liked it, and then you work your ass off at it, and then you get good at it, and then we really like being good at something. And so then you get really passionate about it because you're really good at it. So I like the way that you focused on that, like find something that you're passionate about, something that you're really interested in, and just go at it. And that will be, what differentiates you from the guy who is more educated, who will work you, under the table. Like there's just no two ways about it. Somebody is working harder, they'll work harder, they'll be smarter. So, and you can't beat somebody who is truly passionate about something, because they're going to be, better at it. They care more genuinely. They'll actually probably work harder than you, because to them it's not work. They're really enjoying it. Right. So it's hard to also outwork somebody who's really passionate about something and driven. That's a tough one to beat.
That's where the difference between inspiration and motivation comes in,
Love that.
right? Because you inspired from inside out. You motivated from outside in.
Yep.
You can be motivated by fear. You can be motivated by money. You can be motivated by success, right? But you're inspired by what drives you, right? If you wake up in the middle of the night and you think about it in a positive sense,
Yeah.
not as in, oh my God, I got to get to work at 8 o'clock in the morning because otherwise my boss is going to fire me. That is motivation.
Yep.
Okay. But if you wake up in the middle of the night and say, I'm really excited about doing A, B, and C, right? When it hunts you, when you get up and you step into that dream, step into that passion, when you're driven, even if you don't get paid for it, that is inspiration. And so that's where passion lives. Motivation comes and goes, right? If only I get a raise, if only I get a promotion, and you're working towards that because you're motivated to do that. But when you're inspired, I didn't get the promotion, but I really love what I do. So I'm going to continue learning. And if I don't get it here, I'll get it someplace else, but I'm going to continue learning. That's ins
Absolutely.
that's inspiration.
100%. Love that. So, which makes me curious. What's this book you're working on?
Ah, so it's titled The Lens of Possibility. It's the daily motivation for total transformation. It's more like a guide. So think of it about it this way. Are you familiar with any motivational teaching?
I mean, I suppose, I like self-help books as much as the next guy. I mean, I think everybody's familiar with like the Tony Robbins type of motivational speaking.
So Tony is one of my mentors,
Great.
along with, the late Dr. Wayne Dyer. But
Mm-hmm.
I was really inspired by this little book here. It's always on my desk. It's called Tao Te Ching, and it's translated into probably, I don't know, 3 dozen different languages.
Look at
And
that.
it was written by Lao Tzu. And what this is it's 81 verses, and every verse is a nugget of wisdom, right? And so I was kind of, and it's always on my desk, and I randomly just pick whatever chapter, right, and read it. And I was inspired by that, and so I decided that every day when each of us gets up, we wake up and we have a routine, right? Whatever that is for you. Some meditate, some take a shower, some brush their teeth. Everyone has to have their cup of coffee, cup of tea, cup of water, whatever, right? But how many really put on the attitude of gratitude and start their day with positivity,
Yep.
right? So the book is designed that for every day of the year, you have a brand new chapter. There is a nugget of wisdom, which is typically 1, 2, 3 paragraphs. It's fairly short, right? And then there's a section that talks about a personal view, a reflection, affirmation, and a moment of clarity.
Nice.
And so um, I have written probably over 400 chapters by now,
Wow.
but I am editing it so it could be more or less readable and just not, a whole mumbo jumbo of my thoughts put together.
Hmm.
And it's not duplicated as well because it's very difficult to get up every day and write a new chapter that is not like the
Yeah.
one sometime in the past,
Hmm.
right? So that's why I have over 400.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that each is unique. So whoever's reading it looks at it and says, okay, I can relate to this. right? So, for example, life is a continuous journey of transformation. Sometimes it is loud and unmistakable, big decisions, bold changes, new paths. Other times it's quiet, unfolding slowly within the spaces of our reflection and stillness. I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? I don't want to
Yeah,
use up
for
all of
sure.
the time. But then it goes into affirmations. So something like, I honor the process of becoming, knowing that transformation brings me closer to my true self. I'm open to growth, healing, and endless possibilities ahead. And then not to have it just be another self-help book. I challenge the reader, right? With something like, where in your life are you experiencing transformation right now? How can you honor this process even when it feels uncomfortable? Write down one area of growth you are embracing and let it remind you that transformation is a sign of progress, not perfection. So it's a little nugget of wisdom and motivation for you. Here's a bunch of affirmations that support that. Here's a personal view of mine, how I see this, right? Here's a couple of questions for you to reflect on. And then let's close the whole thing together with a moment of clarity, right? And kind of a giving advice of how to take all of this and implement it into your life.
Nice. I love that. That's fantastic.
You
So,
know who my prime audience is?
mm,
IT executives.
love it.
You
That's
know
great.
why?
Do tell.
We are the most hard-headed group of people in the world because we never admit mistakes
Mm,
and we never ask for help.
it's
Well,
true. There's a lot of that.
most people.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, so um, I figured that there's a lot of people in these roles that are burnt out.
Well, let me ask you, because I think that you know, when you look at executives in our industry, um, the unlike a lot of places where there is some forgiveness and understanding for mistakes. I don't, and maybe it's just me, but I don't think there is a there's a large amount of understanding and forgiveness, and that may be part of why people tend to be so hard-headed, so stubborn, and so slow to admit or refuse to admit any mistakes in our industry. But I think that the expectation of I don't want to say perfection because it's not true. It's there's a kind of, and maybe it's self-imposed. Maybe we're all just imposing it on ourselves. This demand of excellence, and because the rest of the organization maybe doesn't understand everything that we're doing, and they depend on us, so we need to make sure that it's right and that it's great. And then when there's a screw up, you fix it quickly and hope nobody notices. So I'm kind of curious. Do you think this is all just like industry head trash that we've developed over time, or is this a cultural thing that's created because of the environment where the expectations are super high and you have to be fantastic?
I don't think it's ex one or the other. I don't think they're mutually exclusive,
Okay.
right? So I speak to a lot of IT executives, and the common denominator, the thread that kind of binds a lot of us together, and why I started this in the first place is um, a lot of us feel isolated
Yeah.
because we kind of don't feel like we belong on either side, right? So from the executive standpoint, CIO, CTO, whatever, right? It, we don't really fit in with the rest of the CFOs and COOs and the CEOs because we're seen as the technologists, right? We're techies. Even though many of us have a seat at the table and we are very well versed in, in the corporate lingo,
Yep.
right? A lot of us have experience. From the technology standpoint, our teams have expectations of us to be the leaders that we need to be and to hold the line, right? So we need to be the leaders, the managers, the influencers, right? The mentors. So high pressure. So where do we fit? We can't really say, we made a mistake and we're going to fix the mistake. We can't admit it because then many feel that it's a sign of weakness. My executive team is not going to look at me the same way because I've admitted that I made a mistake. My team is not going to look at me the same way because I've admitted that I made a mistake. But how do we learn if we don't admit mistakes? Fixing something behind the scenes is not always the right solution. So many of us feel isolated because we're not here or there. We don't ask for help because, again, many of us feel that it's a sign of weakness. So we become overworked, we become closed, and isolated. And for many, burnout is a real thing.
Yeah.
It's the long hours, it's the isolation, it's the, lack of work-life balance. It's focusing on, I got to be the best, I got to be the best, I got to be the best, I got to be perfect, and then losing the 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 side of your humanity, and the side of uh, what makes you human is not just the fact that you're alive, but you have feelings, right? You have thoughts, and you do make mistakes, right? And you need connection just like everyone else. And that's the reality of it.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, and I suppose at the same time, there is a bit of, you know, because as, kind of the technology, player at the table, perhaps there is a bit of requirement on our end to communicate the things. Like I think everybody's always worried about the next attack, cyber attack, or if there's a breach, or if something goes down, then the problems that ensue from that, and then being seen as, oh, it was your fault for not preventing it. Why didn't we have this in place? Why didn't? And then kind of finger pointing. And I think naturally you'd feel um at not at fault, but you're responsible for the technology and the defense of the organization. So when something bad does happen, there's a natural feeling of, oh, this is on me. So is it maybe that you need to communicate the things more clearly to the C-suite and the other players at the table, that, hey, look, you know yeah, there will be, that it is only a matter of time before there's a breach. When breaches happen, this is how we're prepared. If things go down, this is what we do, so that when there is an incident, they're like, oh, well, that's just that's par for the course now. It's like, 20, 30, 40 years ago, electricity used to go out, on occasion. That was a thing. And then, oh, okay, what do you do? And that was fine. Now, and then 20 years ago, the internet used to go out, and it's like, oh crap, now everybody expects the internet to be perfect, the electricity to be perfect, everything to be perfect all the time. And when it's not, it's like odd. And so I think maybe it's just a matter of kind of setting up those boundaries and communicating it clearly, that this is the world we live in now. There is no perfect, that's what happens. And we're going to do our best to keep this, when the bad things happen, we're going to work together as a team, because it requires all of us, to even preparing for it. We all have to come together to make sure that we're all doing the right things to prevent bad things from happening. Right. So maybe do you think it's also about communicating that, and then you won't have to feel so isolated carrying the burden of everything, because you didn't communicate that you were a team player and that we're all a team and we all share the responsibility. Is that, I don't know, what do you think about that?
I think it's the what I call the Amazon effect, right? A lot of us are used to going on Amazon, finding what we want, ordering it, and having it within, a day or two,
Mhm.
right? So executives look at IT as a necessary evil. If we need something, we call up whoever's in charge, and we'll just make it happen. If Amazon can do it, why can't we? But there's the other side of that. everything costs money and takes time, right? It's like that old joke, if you want it fast, it's
Yes.
going to be, you know what I mean, right? So, it's also a battle because I have to be proactive in looking at the entire landscape, the IT landscape of the company, and say, where are our possible weaknesses, right? We go through penetration testing, we go through weakness assessment, we go through, backups and storage and all that. And so all of that is being assessed on a regular basis, and then communicated to the executive management with a request for funds. We need to increase our security posture, right? We need to strengthen it and harden our security posture. Well, we just did that a year ago, right? But it's ever changing. The
Yep.
bad guys are not waiting. They're
Yep.
constantly evolving.
That's right.
Threats are constantly evolving. Right. Well, but you just upgraded our, antivirus. Yes, but they're finding new and better ways. They're becoming more sophisticated. So we have to be constantly proactive. It's not a point of, upgrading something and then have it be upgraded for the rest of its natural life cycle.
Exactly.
Security is a point in time. You're secure today. A week from now, it's like buying a new car and driving it off the lot. It depreciates the minute you drive it off the lot.
Yep.
That security is old. It's a month old. So there may be new protocols out there. There may be new ways of hacking. There may be, you know, I worked for a company where we had one of the more secure defenses, and someone received an email, and there was an executive, and they clicked on the hyperlink because
Mhm.
it looked harmless enough, and they allowed a Trojan horse to penetrate the network. I can tell you who that was, but it was very
Sure.
messy.
Yeah.
Um, so it's also about education, educating the end user, educating your C-suite about why certain things need to be done, and then not having an argument over, well, you can't have that because it's too expensive. Okay, good, better, best. You invest into good, here's what you're going to get. It may last you this long. It's going to protect you or serve its purpose for in this capacity. Better, it's not just more expensive, it's better for a reason. And then you have best. And eventually that best is going to become good, right? Because it's no longer best,
Yep.
because there's something else out there that's better.
That's right.
So it's a constant evolution of technology on every level.
I love that. It's so great because it's communicating that, to the rest of the decision makers so that they understand, oh yeah, no, I get it. Obviously. It's obvious when you say it like that, right? And you
You're
tell people.
lucky if you get an executive that says that. Most of the time, they pretend they know better.
Do tell. What's
I've been in the business for such a long time, and it's always the CEO or the CFO that's been around, that has 10, 15, 20 years on me. It's like, they know better. In the last company, we did this. The last
Yeah.
CIO did that, and we didn't need all of
We
this. And
didn't need all this. That's exactly right. That's the one. We've been gone 20 years in business and never once did we have a problem. Why would we need to change? Well, because the landscape has changed completely,
Mhm.
right? It is not the same as it was 20 years ago. That is crazy. Yeah. Um, yeah, no, that I'm right there with you. I like we've had some guests on who talk about how they use these tabletop exercises and how and I think prior to say COVID and ransomware being quite so prevalent and in the kind of the general zeitgeist to where everybody is you know acutely aware of the cyber threats daily now. um I think it was a lot harder all the way around for everybody to convince anybody that cybersecurity was an important place to put, to put focus, time, and money. It was just hard, and now I think it's become much easier. And I love these tabletop exercises because even now you get people who are like, yeah, of course we don't want ransomware, but you come to them with a project and say, hey, look, we really need to have like whatever SOC monitoring, right? We need somebody watching our environment 24/7. It's well, we've never had it. It's fine. I'm sure we'll be fine, right? But you do these tabletop exercises where you go through it and you're like, we came in today and all the computers have ransomware on it. What do we do? Well, it's like, wait, why? How'd that happen? Well, because in the middle of the night this happened and we weren't here and nobody was watching. And then they're like, oh shit. Okay. Well, so let's get that SOC monitoring that you were talking about last week. Let's put that in place. And then okay. And so it just gets them on board. And it's fun to hear those stories because we've had several guests who come on and that was like their light bulb thing. Like they were like, oh, once we started doing tabletop exercises, it changed the whole dynamic between our relationship with the C-suite because now everybody's like, yep, they're all on board. They see their role. They see how when something bad happens, how we're all going to be involved in it. So I think those have been really kind of fundamentally changed the game. I think for all of us really is the heightened awareness and prevalency of the danger and things like those tabletop exercises to get everybody involved in it. But curious about your perspective on that.
Um, I don't disagree. Sometimes it takes a really, really bad set of circumstances to change their mind. I worked with a company in the past and I joined them and my first three questions, how's the data? How's the backup? How's the security? Everything else I can fix, right? And I was assured that everything was fine. Um, we run on low on space, but we can upgrade. Security's great. Everything's fine. We've never had an issue, right? And backups are running smoothly. Well, I asked those three questions for a reason,
You think?
right? If your security sucks, pardon my language, then you need to make sure that your backups are good. Your backups are good. You need to make sure that your storage is able to support them. If all three are good, I doubt it. Third week with the company, they got ransomware. They actually hit them 6 months prior,
Yeah,
but they
they've
were
been in there.
sitting in the environment, you know, um, and sure enough, everyone who was involved prior in implementing the security, the backups, the storage, they were gone.
Yeah.
And so the answer that I got was, well, we've never needed this before. Obviously, you do now. And so I had a blank checkbook for a little while,
Hmm.
and we've put everything into securing the environment. And luckily, there was no data exfil,
Oh,
so
nice.
we caught it in time early in the morning. I like to be in the office early in the morning, so it was 7 o'clock in the morning. Uh, I saw that files were beginning to be, rename magically
Yeah.
with weird extensions.
Yeah. Funny how that
So
happens.
yeah, so started investigating, and it was from one of our remote locations. And as soon as I realized what was happening, I walked into our data center and just
Start
pulled
pulling
everything,
cables. Yeah.
pulled everything out of the network switch.
That's right.
And then that's the only way that we actually got to save those pieces of equipment, those
Nice.
servers. But yeah, it took us 3 weeks. That company took a hit for 3 weeks.
Brutal.
We were completely down. They didn't lose anything, but it's just a huge disruptor to the business, you know.
Well, that's fortunate. I mean, that's a bit of a magic bullet. It could have been way worse. That was a nice warning shot that and while it's 3 weeks of downtime and that's expensive and not fun for anybody involved, it could have been way worse. So then fortunately you got the checkbook that you needed and got everything in place after that.
We
It's
could have done it much better,
would have. Yep.
less pressure, more thought out,
Yep.
and probably a lot less expensive.
Absolutely. Now, I know we're running a little low on time, but I have to ask you, because I think you're in a unique position, having grown up in Russia and now it being Ukraine. that. Can I ask what is your position on the whole situation? What
Oy vey. Uh,
you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but
I'm honestly I'm a little bit torn, right? I'm very torn. Uh, I kind of grew up with Zelensky,
yeah,
right? I knew him when he was just an entertainer, kind of growing up through the industry, years ahead, of his time and years before anyone even knew his name outside of the border.
yep,
And when Ukraine has been decimated by corruption for years on all levels of the government,
mhm,
and everyone knew that, right? United States knew that, Russia knew that, everyone knew that. So when he ran, and he ran on a platform of rooting out corruption on all levels of the government, I was very, very excited because to me that presented an opportunity of him being the Ukrainian version of Ronald Reagan,
yeah,
who, in my opinion, was one of the greatest presidents. Um, an entertainer turned politician,
yeah,
man of the people. But something didn't click for me. Before he ran, he actually started in a TV series called The Man of the People. I don't know if you, not a man of the people, servant of the people.
okay, mhm,
It was a TV series where he played an actor who um, ran for president and won. And he was in disbelief that he actually won. And he didn't know anything about being a politician or get alone being a president. And so when he actually announced that he's running, everyone thought it was like another take on, version 2.0.
yeah,
But no, he ran and he won on that platform. Well, looking back at it today, it just seems like more of the same. Yes, he's being portrayed as the hero because he's standing up to, big bad Russia and all that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't think that what Putin is doing is good in any shape or form, right? And I don't care, how many Nazi battalions they think, are operating in Ukraine. We're talking about civilians.
yeah,
We're talking about, civil epicenters. We're talking about kids, women, children, whatever. So I'm never going to agree with that.
right,
On the other side of it, uh, many people do not understand what's happening inside of Ukraine today.
yeah,
And it's not just what the mainstream media wants you to know. I have family there. I have friends there. I speak to them. The mainstream media tells you that his approval ratings are through the roof. That is not true.
mm,
Most of the country cannot stand him.
how
There's
about
been
that?
plenty of assassination attempts.
Wow,
People cannot stand him. First of all, he refused to have new elections. He halted any elections.
right.
Um,
Always a sign of a good leader.
yes. He silences anyone that opposes him, right? I mean, talk about democracy.
Yeah, no, that's what he wants.
So, in my eyes, he had failed the people. Yes, he is going around and he what's the word? I was actually having this conversation with someone earlier today. It was more of a social media debacle that him and I are having. Um, he said he's begging people for help. He's begging his allies for help. He had completely forgotten about, self-respect, and then he's just a very humble person. If that was the case, he would have came to the table with some peace negotiations.
Mhm, of
Again, I'm not saying that what Putin did is right,
course.
and he should absolutely be dragged in front of world court and and answer for the crimes that he has committed. But putting that aside, what are you doing for your people? Why are you sending young men and women to die, knowing that there's very little chance of them coming back?
Yeah,
It's like a rabbit fighting a bear. Everyone knows this. And without the United States, without the European allies, This would have been done a long time ago. And all of those millions of people that perished as a result would have lived.
Yeah.
And I know that he does not want to hold elections because he knows he's going to lose. And this is the only protection that he has today.
Wow.
Where is he going to go?
Wow.
Nowhere. You know, his army does not support him. They support Ukraine.
Hmm.
They're fighting for the motherland, not for him.
Yeah.
There's so much corruption, millions upon millions of dollars disappeared. We've actually, myself along with a bunch of my friends, we've gathered funds, we've purchased products, anywhere from, non-perishables to clothing, anything and everything. We sent 2 containers to Kiev. One made it. You know where they found the other one?
Where?
Local flea market. So corruption on every level. Meanwhile, he has homes that he bought all over the place. He bought a yacht and he's crying for money,
Yeah.
So my heart bleeds for the people because they're not getting the fair share, they got the short end of the stick. And he knows that. So I'm very disappointed. If we're just talking about Ukraine, I'm very
Yeah.
disappointed in the result. He showed up, but he didn't come through.
Yeah. Some hard truths. That's fantastic. I'm
It,
glad I
it,
asked.
it's just my opinion, you know.
Sure.
Um, we have these debates in my family all the time because um, some of my family members are from the Russian side and some of my family members are from the Ukrainian side, and same thing goes for my friends. And so they start to constantly debate and argue amongst themselves, and it never ends up well.
You don't say.
And I have to come in and be the peacemaker. But at the end of the day, leaders like that, they come and go.
Yeah.
It's the people, that's who pays the ultimate price.
Yeah, it always is. And that's the real sad part. I mean, when you get weak leadership that runs and hides and lets people, you tons, just thousands and thousands of people die to protect their position, their image, that's unthinkable. That's ridiculous to me. That's the kind of unforgivable part. And you know, there's no right and wrong, especially in war, in any sort of argument or conflict. Nobody ends up winning. The price is always too high. But it's sad to see things like that. It really is.
Have you seen anything in the mainstream media uh, where they show video or articles about special units that actually patrol the city streets? And if they believe that you are young enough, whether you're a man or a woman, they will snatch you off the street, put you in a van, and send you off to the front.
Wow. Isn't that something?
I have videos from my friends back there. They've seen a car get completely destroyed by um, automatic fire because somebody wanted to. I can't say enough details, a lot of details,
Sure.
but people have moved outside of the cities, right? So it's, here we call them suburbs. There it's more like villages outside of the cities.
Mhm.
And so that's where a lot of older people live. And typically, they move out there because they want to live independently of the government. They have their gardens, they have their, horses, pigs, chicken coops, whatever. So a friend of mine had his parents move out there thinking that they're going to be safe. His mother is ill. He went into the city to pick up medication. He was on the way back. They decided to close the road. They wouldn't let anyone through because they were checking to make sure that you had a valid reason not being in the army.
Now, just so I'm clear, on which side or both sides is this happening?
This was in Ukraine,
Wow.
Ukrainian military. He's a Ukrainian citizen.
Wow.
This is all happening in right in the center of the country, right? And all he's doing is coming back from the city into the village, right? Delivering the medication for his mother, who
Wow.
is in her 70s. And they closed the road and they wouldn't let him through. And he decided to go anyway. They shot up the car.
Wow. Sounds like there's no good guys in this fight.
Well, unfortunately, people are, they're dying and it's very, very sad.
It
It's very
is.
sad.
Wow.
My uncle's still there. Can't get out.
Jeez.
Can't get out. Like it's not he can't sell any of his properties. He can't sell any of his assets, and he's of that age that um if he leaves everything behind, he starts with nothing and
Yeah.
he's over retirement age.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's like, I can't sell anything. I can't sell my home. I can't sell the apartment. I can't sell my business. I can't sell anything. No one wants to buy anything.
Yep.
So what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yep. You wait and hope. Yeah. Total.
So
It's understandable.
it's trying to wait it out.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like every day there's a new um how do they say it? Authoritarian arm of the government,
Hmm.
right? We're with the government. We're here to help you. We're only
Yeah.
going to take a little bit of your pie.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of the pie being taken away every week or so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's something. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, that's tough. But hey, I asked and you answered and I appreciate it. I think it's good information and stuff that people they don't get to see, right? We don't get to see that because we're fed, stories from our media that are meant to make us think and a certain way. And so I really appreciate anytime we get to hear, a different perspective and, get to hear the story from somebody who's been there, who's got family there, whatever it might be. So there's always multiple sides to a story. And I think I thank you for sharing, what is obviously a really difficult, situation all the way around. So thank you.
my pleasure.
Well, Greg, I can't thank you enough for coming on. But before we go, can you tell everybody where they can find out more about you and Creative Home Ideas?
Creative Home Ideas is on the web, creativehomeideas.com. You can find everything that you need to know about the company there. If you want to find our products, they're available in all of the major retail stores, as well as Amazon and Walmart.com, Costco.com. Stores are online. I am on pretty much every social media channel and outlet, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you can't find me by name, my handle is GT Inspires. So you can find me there or hashtag GT Inspires. And what else? I do have a TikTok account. I know that's what the kids like. So there's plenty of videos to inspire and motivate you every day. You can find me there, GT Inspires as well. And outside of that, I'll let you guys know when the book drops.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to it. And I'd like to ask you right now if maybe we can have you back on once your book drops. We'll read the book and then have you on to discuss it. How about that?
That'll be awesome.
That's fantastic. Well then, until your book drops and we have you back on the show, thanks for coming on, Greg.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.